How's it going, everybody? My name is Alpine Hippie, and today we're going to be covering some recent news in video games and the shows that are based off of them. This is mostly going to be going over the current situation where people have been over time mass leaving the Halo franchise, especially Halo Infinite, and have been slowly going back in mass to Cyberpunk 2077. Now, I think this story is absolutely insane. If you would have told me back in 2020 that Cyberpunk was becoming more popular than the current Halo game, I would have just straight up thought you were lying to me. For anyone that was completely out of touch with gaming when Cyberpunk was initially released, the game was released in an just abhorrent state. It was completely broken, not just for some people, but for anyone playing the game. And it just led to a lot of people casting really official judgment right then and there that the game was a piece of garbage, wasn't worth anybody's time. And people ended up, I think, as a result, being a lot harder on the game just because of everyone as a whole just dogpiling. Obviously, they were trying to, release it before Christmas, but that is no excuse for the state the game was in right out the gate. That being said, though, the game overall wasn't that bad. I liked the visuals, the gameplay was fun, the story was pretty decent, I liked most of the characters. Now, Halo Infinite was almost the complete opposite on release. The reception of the game very early on was phenomenal. Everyone really liked it. They liked the maps, what the game had going on. The only complaint that most people had is that it was very content dry. Outside of the main story and some really just expected elements in the game, there's almost nothing. The game doesn't have any extra missions. The release pathway for the game was very barren, and it kind of has just been bleeding out. Fans are getting very upset at everything that has been going on with this Halo game, and they're even more upset at the recent roadmap. This roadmap was embarrassing. All it really did was say that they're working on Forge, which is, don't get me wrong, a very cool element to this game that they're going to be adding, but outside of that, there was almost nothing to be excited about for this game. See, now where this story gets really interesting is that both of these games have had shows based off of them. And that's what has really made or broke the games at this point in time, believe it or not. Now, this story is a perfect example of what happens when a studio listens to constructive criticism and makes sure that it doesn't make the same mistakes. Halo, on the other hand, is a perfect example of a company that thinks that it's too big to fail, cashed in on that, and did. So plain and simple, this is what happened here. Halo is an insanely popular household name that has been just a masterpiece up until it was purchased by everyone's least favorite game developer, 343 Industries. They have been subsequently running Halo into the ground ever since they owned it, and this show was just the nail in that coffin. The creators of this show actively bragged that they had not played the game and had no intention of it. The actual lore in the show had nothing to do with anything related to the game and essentially bastardized all the characters involved. People were, pissed that this show wasn't a pretty honest representation of the game itself. People just wanted to see Master Chief being awesome with some decent storyline points weaved in. And personally, with the budget and time they put into the show, I don't think that was a very hard ask at all. Now let's get into Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk, as we talked about earlier, had a really, really rocky release early on. I mean, even it went down tons of refund pathways. But they recently released Cyberpunk Edgerunners, which is one of the best animated series I have ever seen in my entire life. It is so good. The story is so good. The characters are great. The visuals are amazing. The marketing for it was really well done, which is surprising given that it's an anime that's been released by Netflix, and you know how I feel about those. But overall, this show was just a smashing success, and it got people really excited about the universe that Cyberpunk provides. It gets really great with the visuals and the augmentations that the characters can have to fight and be really cool. And it's canon. It's canon to some missions that are in the series themselves, the game series, I mean. And it's really cool. It got a lot of people wanting to go back and check out these side missions that had to do with what's going on in the show. Now, I'm not going to get into specifics because I don't want to spoil the show for anyone. You should just go watch it. It is extremely short and worth the watch for sure. But all in all, it got people more interested in the game. People are flocking back to Cyberpunk right now. I couldn't pull up a better representation of the difference between these two games than sharing the stream numbers that they're having at the moment. Right here, we have the Halo streaming numbers, which as you can see have been slowly dropping off. That spike you're seeing in May was just as a release of Season 2, which included a free-to-play multiplayer, so that was a really big deal for streamers especially, but that's the only reason they had any upturn at any point in this graph at all. Cyberpunk, on the other hand, you can tell that over the last 30 days, which is when the show is released, it has increased from 1,185 on average to 12,700 on average, which is a 121% increase in the last 30 days alone. This is before even the majority of people have finished watching the show and really gotten hyped up and gotten back into the game. All in all, this story is a perfect example of why you should take your productions and your franchises seriously. We like it. We want to see more of it, and we want to support studios that do that kind of stuff. Everyone was real freaking quick to be real forgiving of Cyberpunk and even apologize for the, harsh reviews they gave it in past tense because of the product that they put out, and that is insane to me. Halo should learn a hard lesson from this and start realizing that if they don't want this franchise to completely fall off, they need to start taking it seriously, listening to fans, and going back to the lore that this entire franchise is based off of. Anyway, that's all there really is to it for me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that if you like my content, you'll like and subscribe. It really helps grow my channel. I really appreciate it. And with all that being said, signing off.